Recording in progress.
Whew. Shabbat Shalom. Shankwilya, One Vision Ministry. Today I want to talk on remembering Yireh, who Yireh is. Remembering who Yireh is. Let me pray first and let me get going. Excuse me. Okay. Abba Yah, thank you for this Shabbat, this first fruit, this day of rest. May all your Shabbats be days of remembrance, days that we gather ourselves and get out of the way and allow you to be our focus. It's so easy to think on the things that we are actively doing day by day, and thus the rest, the day of rest, gives us time to refocus and point our attentions towards you. Most of us get lax on our reading of your word, lax on our praying, but we rarely ever, I guess, when you provide for us so well, we don't always give you the acknowledgement because we feel that we've worked, which we have, to get what we got. But we have to remember always that you have provided the opportunity as well as the strength, the well-being of life, and you provided the increase. So I thank you. Hallelujah. Okay. Well, a lot's going on with me. So I'm gonna express something like, I'm a little tired. Work and labor. I'm tired. And the rinse and repeat of life. I'm getting older. And of course, being a worker at an older age, you feel that. But you can get to thinking that my labor is what brought me here. No, Yahuwah is who brought you here. He's your provider. I'm going to get straight to the reading so I can do talking in the middle of it. So let's get straight to the reading. Where I want to come from is Malachim Aleph, or First Kings. This was called chapter 17. Of course, there was no chapter and verses in the original writing. So Eliyahu is the focus here. Most of us would call him, I guess, Elijah from what we've been taught, but Eliyahu, that's his Hebraic name because the letter J wasn't there. But let me get to reading. And Eliyahu, the Tishbite of the inhabitants of Gilead, said to Ahab, as Yahuwah Elohim of Israel lives, before whom I stand, there shall be no dew or rain these years except at my word. A drought. The land would be barren. No water. Let's go. And the word of Yahuwah came to him, saying, go away from here and turn eastward and hide by the Wadi Karith, which flows into the yard. And it shall be that you drink from the stream, and I shall command the ravens to feed you there. Yah is providing using ravens, and we would call the Yard the Jordan River. And he went and did according to the word of Yahuwah, for he went and dwelt by the Wadi Karif, which flows into the Yarden. And the ravens brought him bread and meat in the morning, in the AM, and bread and meat in the evening, in the PM. And he drank from the stream. And it came to be after a while that the stream dried up. The drought had got so bad that even the stream dried up because there had been no rain in the land. Then the word of Yahuwah came to him, saying, Rise up, go to Zarephath, which belongs to Zidon, and dwell there. See, I have commanded a widow there to sustain you. So he went from a raven sustaining him to now a widow. But all of this is, you seeing natural things happening, but of course, this is Yah's Ruach moving upon the raven and now upon the widow. And he rose up and went to Zarephath and came to the gate of the city and saw a widow there gathering sticks. And he called and said to her, Please bring me a little water in a vessel to drink. And as she was going to get it, he called and said to her, Please bring me a piece of bread in your hand. And she said, As Yahuwah your Elohim lives, I do not have bread. She don't have no bread. Only a handful of flour in a bin and a little oil in a jar. And see, I am gathering a couple of sticks and shall go in and prepare it for myself and my son, and we shall eat it and die. So she had her last. She's not even looking to Yahuwah to save her or redeem her. She had her last. She like, we're going to eat this last little bit and we're going to die. But the prophet is in the place. And so Eliah, this is Eliyahu, said to her, Do not fear. Go and do as you have said, but make a small cake from it first and bring it to me. Take care of the prophet. Take care of the man of Yah first. And afterwards, make some for yourself and your son. For thus said Yahuwah Elohim of Israel, the bin of flour shall not be used up. Yah again providing. He's being Yireh. Yireh means provision or provider. That's why we call him Yahuwah Yireh. Yahuwah is our provider. The bin of flour shall not be used up, nor the jar of oil run dry, until the day Yahuwah sends rain on the earth. So she went and did according to the word of Eliyahu. And she and he and her household ate for many days. Man, Yah provided. Went from a raven to the widow with just a small little amount of flour and oil, and now they're eating for many days. The bin of flour was not used up, nor did the jar of oil run dry, according to the word of Yahuwah, which he spoke by Eliyahu. And after these events, it came to be that the son of the woman who owned the house became sick. See, Yah provided them with food, though they were going to just eat and die. But now this son has become sick, and sickness was very severe until there was no breath left in him. And she said to Eliyahu, What have I to do with you, O man of Elohim? Have you come to me to bring my crookedness to be remembered and to kill my son? She was already ready to go and eat the last cake and die, and that had sustained him for many days. But now her son is seeming about to perish. She already was ready to die. He about to die. She thinking about judgment on herself and not the provision of life. The prophet come to save, to bring salvation or help or deliverance to them, and not death, because she was going to just eat and die. So this sickness is just a symptom, just a matter of life that's going on. A lot of folks going through a lot of struggles right now, and they wonder, basically, has Yah not remembered me? But Yah had a prophet in her house, and she didn't even seek to tap into him to see, hey, what is thus say Yah? But the prophet is there, and let's keep going. And he said to her, give me your son. So he took him from her arms. I'm going to say that son is like a first fruit. When you put a seed in the ground, it has to die first before it comes back to life. But anyway, so he took him from her arms and took him to the upper room where he was dwelling. And he laid on his bed, laid him on his own bed. And he cried out to Yahuwah and said, oh, Yahuwah my Elohim, have you also brought evil on the widow with whom I am sojourning to kill her son? Now, he ain't blaming Yah. He asking a question. Many would probably take that as he blaming Yah, but we have a right to ask Yah questions. You lost your job. Is Yah, what are you doing with this? What are you doing with me losing my job? I'm using this for provision. To ask him a question to get his answer is no problem. But don't blame Yah. Ask him the question. So what he did, he asked him a question. And then he says, and he stretched himself out on the child 3 times. 3 times the significance. He always, we see 3 a lot through the word. And cried out to Yahuwah and said, oh, Yahuwah, my Elohim, I pray, let the life of this child come back to him. Now, though he asked a question about the condition, now he's asking directly for the life to be returned to the child. We are his sons of Yah, so we can ask directly for what we desire and what we need. And Yahuwah heard the voice of Eliyahu. Yah's not a respecter of person. If he loved Eliyahu and he loves us, he will listen and hear us. Does that mean he will answer or give us what we ask every time? We have to know if it lines up with his will. Right now, it was in Yah's will that this child live. And Yahuwah heard the voice of Eliyahu, and the life of the child came back to him, and he lived. And Eliyahu took the child and brought him down from the upper room into the house and gave him to his mother. And Eliyahu said, see, your son lives. This is the same son that she was going to just eat the cake and die. His days went past that moment, and now, though he seemed like he was about to die, he was basically dead. He's living. And the woman said to Eliyahu, now by this I know that you are the man of Elohim, and the word of Yahuwah is in your mouth. The word of Yahuwah in your mouth is truth. This was a short little read, and I'm putting it in place because personally, my own employment is up, possibly. The government is closing down my place of occupation. But this is not my first rodeo. Yahuwah has been a provider many times over. During COVID, my wife was off for about 17 months. They basically removed her from their roster or whatever. They erased all of her information because they, even though they didn't say fired, they said laid off, they basically released her. You go back when I first started into security, I was off work for a long time and, got into security. That was what, January 2001. And Yahuwah is constantly shown that he's going to provide. Yes, my physical body has had to do some labor, but he's opened up opportunities. Eliyahu had to go to the river and wait for the ravens, but he had to go there. He had to physically go to the river and accept something from the ravens. Then he physically went to the woman's house, laid upon her child, did all of these different things. He had to physically, you had to be a part of your process. Yah's going to provide. I kind of, lightly had mentioned about, the child basically kind of being like a first fruit. I kind of want to go on a whole tangent from what I was just saying, because Yahuwah is the provider, but want to show some, just kind of talk on some things. Um, Yaqub, his wife, Rachel, that's the one he really loved. That's the one he sought out. Of course, he got tricked into having Leah. So the son of that wife he loved is actually his first fruit. That's how I see it. This son he cherished, gave him a coat of many colors. He, just basically loved on his child. But then guess what? Brothers betrayed him and he ended up in bondage in Egypt or Mizraim. He's basically the first fruit of that union between him and Rachel. But the thing is, though, him being given up set forth an opportunity for a great harvest. There was a drought in that situation that occurred. Yaqub had thought that Joseph, his first son, by Rachel, was deceased, but yet he was in bondage in Egypt. But that bondage had him first working for Potiphar, but then it ended up being the master of Potiphar's house. He ended up in jail off of a false lie by Potiphar's wife that, he tried to lay with. And then he ended up being the master over the prison. He told about some visions and stuff like that. And then when Pharaoh had a vision, he ended up being called upon. And he went from being the master of Potiphar's house, the master of the prison, and now he ended up being the Pharaoh's right-hand man, to the point that he had access to everything that Pharaoh had, except for his wife, of course. And guess what? When that drought that hit the land came about, his family needed help. So now he was able to be the provider of help to them. They had to do a whole lot of work to get there. They had to travel from their land to get to Egypt. But they left out of there with stuff, he gave them stuff and it didn't cost them nothing other than the walk. Because every dollar, everything they gave, he returned it back to them. He put them through a little hardship, but again, that was Yahuwah's provision. Yahuwah set that whole thing up. And though it looked like a disastrous situation, him going into bondage, he seen it later in his later days that, okay, this thing set up for me to save my whole lineage, my whole family, and my ancestors did what they did to get me to this point, and now I'm the ancestor to all these people forward. Our ancestor, Joseph, did what was necessary to extend Israel, the nation. So right now, we got to go through some stuff sometimes to extend our lineage. This hard work and stuff that I've been doing or whatever and stuff that Yah's been providing, but yet this is extending for my grandson, Koa, or, and whoever else. Giving forth an example of labor, but also the greater example that in the end, it's not my labor that's providing, it's Yah that's providing. Because whenever I lose something, I gain much more. I have to rely back on and trust back on Yah to be my provider. Because as I'm getting older, it's like, man, you can easily, man, where I'm gonna find the next place because I'm getting older. What they gonna want with me? But Yah keeps opening up doors. Every time something seems to be closing on me, another door opens. You know, I'm tired of working, period, but I'm not tired of trusting in Yah. So when the doom and gloom of other folks was going on about what's going on at my place of occupation, I'm smiling. I'm happy. And sadly enough, I can say that it caused frustration in people because they were upset at the loss. But I'm like, okay, y'all, what you finna do next? Honestly, I'm tired of working, period. But that's where y'all has me, working. And a lot of to be honest, a lot of the working is giving me opportunity to minister. So I gotta look at it that way. Physically, though, my body is not what it used to be. But he's going to provide regardless, he's going to provide. So I'll get another opportunity somewhere else. But I have to remember that he's the one providing it and not get reliant on the check, but be more focused on what am I there for? Because me smiling and stuff like that, made them uncomfortable. But the communication let them know that, okay, I'm trusting in something bigger, something greater. I have to remember who Yireh is. And a lot of folks don't even know who Yireh is. So it's my job as a minister to share who Yireh is. The name above my head is Yahuwah. That's who Yireh is to me. I can go further. I just did the Yosef bell, but I can say Yahuwah set forth a seed with Israel. But then also later on, he set forth a seed with Yahusha. He's providing. With Israel, he provided. When I gave the whole scenario of Yosef, that man made a way for the ancestors to move forward. But Yahusha also made a way for us to move forward. First fruits. Yahusha being a first fruit. We're looking for a harvest. But we have to remember who Yireh is. Who's your provider? The government is not my provider. Even though they pay my paycheck at the moment, they're not my provider. If that paycheck ends, my business, I get business. I got a business. Still, provider's Yah. Though my hands have to move, my king, my sovereign, is who providing the opportunity. So I just thank you for this opportunity, Abba. I thank you for all that we're able to hear. May they glean something from this. Of course, I always welcome the constructive criticism of others. May they come with respect and honor to you so that they don't come with insults, but we're able to dialogue, excuse me. I thank you for this opportunity this Shabbat. May many have rested, but also may they have come together in convocation. May we remember to give you our first and best. And as we remember that, we remember you are the one providing all opportunities, all access, all resources, all health and well-being. It comes from you. Let us move forward and honor and integrity and character that reflects you. Thus, we operating in your name. Your character and reputation is operating in your name, Yahuwah. Hallelujah. Shabbat Shalom.